Welcome to a football show Monday edition. Back in our regularly scheduled time slot and co-host slots. That's Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com. I am Braden Gall, and he is live from the Titans press room at the practice facility following Monday's practice. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. PK, how are you, sir?
I'm well. A mystery man will walk out of that podcasting booth shortly. I did not get dibs on the booth.
You got to wake up early in the morning.
But I've got the room. I've got the room. The room is better than the booth.
Well, maybe you'll unfreeze for me. I don't know if everybody else can see you, but you're frozen for me. So we'll see. Tyler, good to see you. Bustin says not great Wi-Fi in that room, PK.
It's the same Wi-Fi. It shows me 100% signal.
About as good as the airport, LOL, says go forth.
Listen, look, I'm on the move. I'm doing things.
Moving and shaking. We got a lot of stuff to get to today on the show, as the Titans have had two practices, Saturday in the really bad heat, and then today in the almost as bad, but not quite as bad heat today. So we've got two practices to cover today. We're also going to spend some time, and so we'll look at Cam Ward, we'll look at the offense, we'll look at all different kinds of things that happened over the last two practices. A lot of injuries, actually. Not many that are legitimately long-term outside of the ACL and the torn pec for a couple of players over the weekend, but coming out of the preseason game. But the injuries are starting to pile up a little bit for the offense. Mitch Trubisky left practice today. Carnell Tate was banged up, but it seems to be fine. So we'll kind of give you an injury update. Cam Ward, very efficient over the last two games as we kind of get ready and preview. One more practice on Wednesday, then a joint practice, of course, with Seattle on Friday before preseason game number 2 on Sunday. So we're going to kind of take a second to step back in the middle of camp and kind of offer some big picture midterm awards. We're going to look at a bunch of different categories of different players and different things like that. So we're going to do that coming up on the show today. PK, if you want to refresh, give me a hard refresh. I will put you back in the room while I tell everybody, all of you wonderful and amazing fans, about Sinkers Beverages. Liquor Store of the Year, 5-time Liquor Store of the Year. You can buy amazing local craft brewery beer in that liquor store in an award-winning craft beer fridge. East Nashville Beer Works, Yazoo Brewing Company, Tennessee Brew Works, all available. PK, I was at me and the family and a bunch of friends. We went to Tennessee Brew Works on Saturday before the messy match, which is like a mile away from the stadium. They got great beer, great food. So it's a great go support your local businesses, Sinkers Beverages, but also all the other small businesses that support Sinkers, like the local breweries in your area, Yazoo, Tennessee Brew Works, and East Nashville Beer Works. If you want to have the booze delivered directly to your house, if for whatever reason on Sunday you'd like to have some booze sent to your party or watch party or whatever, make sure you check out Uber Eats, search Sinkers Beverages, and have that booze delivered directly to your house. How's the new sleep?
NSC played very well.
It was one of the best games I've ever seen them play against, considering the competition and the stage. That is for sure. They totally dominated. Okay, so let's
sleep.
Yeah,
I
what's
got to
that?
tell you. So I'm on this CPAP.
Yeah.
I feel addicted to it. It's been terrific. I've had no problems. I mean, it took me a little bit to get used to falling asleep with it the first night. It's only over my nose. I keep my mouth shut. I breathe through my nose. It's been delightful. I don't feel the full effects of it yet. I still napped yesterday afternoon when I turned on the Yankees. But I do feel a little bit, and I'm confident it's going to pay dividends. And I'm shocked the ease with which I've gotten used to it, and very encouraged.
I can't believe this is a thing that has been brought up in this second. I don't understand what is the reasoning behind. Is it about like airflow that people need?
So your
Why do you
throat
need
basically closes when you snore, and so you're not getting enough oxygen in there, and this blows air in that keeps that throat open so that you get this sufficient oxygen. So
Gotcha.
I'm oxygenated now.
Okay, and that's the machine that you wear the mask and it attaches to the machine and all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
but it's much less of a thing than it used to be in terms of the straps and everything. It's very modernized and sleek.
I don't know how I got lucky that I do not. The only time I ever snore is if I've had too many beers, and that just doesn't happen as much anymore in my life. The best way for me to get great sleep, and you all can admire this, if I work out a lot, I work out that day, and then I get my THC gummies from Sinkers Beverages. I have a great night's sleep. It's great. I wake up refreshed and ready to go.
I'm out of the conversation.
Yeah, no, I know. Just mechanical. It's fine for you. So it's all right.
Well, mechanical is not illegal. It doesn't have a long history.
It's not illegal.
Illegality.
It's not illegal. It's completely legal.
It's illegal adjacent.
It's what? So do you drive the speed limit? Are you like 35 and a 35
That's
all
not
the time?
Ingesting illegal materials.
It's not illegal.
Illegal. We're never going to agree.
It's not illegal. You can buy it at every liquor store in the state.
Rebellious hippie.
Football show with Braden, Gall, and Nancy Reagan.
That's funny.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. Jordan is good for at least one of those a show.
That's very good.
I appreciate you, Jordan. Good stuff.
I have never once inhaled. I've never had marijuana once in my life.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh my God, Andrew! It is God's plan. That's how. What is we? How about this? Here's a football show.
So is tobacco, and how great is that?
Tobacco's terrible for you.
Yeah, but it's God's plan.
They have a huge
They're
lobby.
all God's plan.
No, it's not. With the tobacco's not what's bad for you. I'm not getting into this with you, you ancient dinosaur. I'm not getting into this with you. It is the nicotine and the tar and the rat poison and all the other stuff they put in, the carcinogens that they put into cigarettes that are really the bad stuff. Anyway, here's the thing. I'm going to call it right now. The Tennessee legislative body is going to legalize medicinal marijuana at some point in 2027.
Medicinal is
Mark
fine.
it down.
I'm fine for people that have glaucoma. I want them to have it.
This is for you, Jordan. This is for you. Jordan's the people that listens to all the shows. Okay, all right. Cam Ward, 22 of 28 today. He was fine. He was very good. Not a lot of footballs hit the ground today. They did a lot more focus on the running game today. The Tennessee Titans offense did, at least from my perspective. I was not at Saturday. I had the first day of like club soccer all over the place. I had Gallatin and East Nashville for all these games that my girls are playing in. If you count Saturday and you count today, Cam Ward 43 of 53. Not a lot of balls hitting the ground. This is what you wanted to see, of course, from the Titans offense after some of the criticisms we had in the preseason game, at least in the first half. So just talk me through how you view the bounce back. Certainly the secondary is a part of this conversation, and that could be a bigger concern than we even thought because it was bad on Tuesday and Thursday of last week in practice and in the game. How do you read out the types of practices they've had the last two practices, the efficiency, and what you've seen from the offense, in particular the quarterback?
He's doing what they want in terms of taking what he's given, right? I don't know what you felt. And look, I was really locked in on Fernando Carmona today, so I wasn't watching big picture. I was watching narrowly for the story that I've published about Carmona, who, by the way, says he's done nothing. It's almost like he's confused as to how he's at the head of the line, which is endearing, I think. And humility is certainly not a problem for the guy. I think Cam has thrown a lot of short stuff. And so, again, if you're looking for the modernized pass offense in the framework of chunk plays, well, it's going to take something special for this team to get chunk plays, and they're going to have to be really efficient with the underneath stuff to draw teams in, to offer potential for somebody to sneak behind. That to me is fine. So 12-play drives are fine. I think there are signs that they're going to be able to run the ball well, better. This offensive line more equipped maybe with what it's good at to maybe run the ball better. The backs have looked good for what you can interpret. I don't know about chunk plays, maybe from Spears. We know Pollard's limitations. And, I thought Ward came out the first practice after the game and was almost intentionally slow after he was sped up in the game, threw big loopy screens and held the ball long and got tagged for sacks, even though he made throws after that. And then gradually got into a rhythm and was better. It seems like he's been better. So anxious to see him against Seattle, a very challenging defense. Certainly Friday there will be. I don't know what they'll do on Sunday in terms of playing people. But we need to see some progress. Not all teams need to show preseason progress to convince you that they'll be good on opening Sunday. I feel like this team does, even though it's the Jets.
I think it felt like they were focused on the running game today in team drills. And, again, I wasn't there Saturday. But if you felt like you acquired information last week against San Francisco, and you acquired things like, hey, he was sped up a little bit here, or he held the ball too long there, or whatever the analysis is in the film room, right, with Cam. If you come back out and on Saturday and Tuesday, or Saturday and Monday, you intentionally create some efficiency moments, you intentionally work on the running game, you kind of reset to some degree back to what you want to do core on your offense, that they did not take a bunch of deep shots. Frankly, I thought Trubisky and Levis maybe took more deep shots today than I thought Cam did at all. I don't know what Cam Ward's deepest throw air yards was today. It might have been
air yards. He threw one from the left sideline to the right sideline.
Well, that's true. After he was sacked by Jeffrey Simmons,
Kyle Manor.
Yeah, very, very. You guys would recognize that play from last year's in-game plays, but that was one that Simmons clearly would have sacked him on. But and that was maybe a gain of what, like 11 or something like that, gain of 8.
But a throw of 40.
Right. But down the field, I guess I don't know how long the Carnell Tate throw was at the end of the practice.
Maybe 30.
That might have been the deepest. That might have been the deepest throw of the entire day.
Yeah, and Kevin Winston's reckless on that. I'm sorry. I'm not into this. People think like that hypes up the team or it shows the fast violent. I don't need fast violent against Carnell Tate. I need let him hit the ground safely against Carnell Tate. That's a big deal to me. And I see too much of it from Kevin Winston. Show me plays in space that aren't putting anybody at risk in practice.
Well, we can get to that, because that kind of leads into the next topic, which is I think Cam Ward has done, and the offense has done what you want it to do coming out of the game on Thursday, but it doesn't mean anything necessarily. We'll see what happens on Wednesday and more importantly on Friday and Sunday. So we'll see. I think let's get to the Tate of it all, because it speaks to a larger thing that is sort of happening. Any info on the bicep, that is about Mitchell Trubisky, who did leave a little bit early today. It seems like he's dealing with the bicep in his throwing arm. You had Tony Pollard, Nick Singleton, and Khalil Mullings, all three of whom did not practice today, all three of whom a little banged up. And so John Franklin Myers was out there today, but he's banged up. He kind of left early. I want to stay with the offense. Jared Kanek with a torn pec out for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
he's banged up.
Listen, if you're going to lose 2 guys for the season, Kanek and Harrell, I mean,
sure.
Why are people reacting like they're reacting to that?
No, I'm just saying we're getting to like second week of the preseason, 3-4 weeks of camp. You're starting to see the injuries start to kind of come together a little bit on the offense. And one of these was Carnell Tate, of course. So let's kind of set the scene here. Very into practice. I think it's a 4th down play. Cam Ward throws it, a big chunk play to Carnell Tate, who makes an extraordinary catch, but is run into a little aggressively by Kevin Winston and ends up hitting the ground. I think Robert Saleh said maybe he kind of was dazed or something like that. I don't know exactly. Dizzy is what he said, which is an interesting. It's not a concussion, but he's dizzy. That's kind of weird.
Well, we don't know for sure it's not a concussion.
Well, that's
dizzy
what he said.
Is a concussion symptom. He did say that?
Well, I think he said I'm not worried about it being a concussion or something like that. But again, he's
he didn't really want to go off the field.
Yeah.
But he was down on a knee. Some of his teammates right there waved very hurriedly for medical people. So hard to tell immediately. I mean, it doesn't look like a long-term thing. I thought it'd probably get the wind knocked out of him, but we'll see. But this is not something Kevin Winston should be doing.
And I think that's ultimately kind of the bigger – there's 2 stories here. One is like, are we worried at all? Because this is truly what Robert Saleh has talked about from a ramping up the team into the season is a lot of it is about protecting the body and making sure you're doing the right drills. And we'll do all that conversation coming up. But he's been very careful about this stuff. He's been very intentional with how he has, whether it's seed oils or one-on-one drills, like he's been very intentional. And the injuries are you're starting running back and your 3rd string running back and your number 1 wide receiver takes a little nick. And, it's just kind of your backup quarterback is got a bicep problem now. It's not the important ones, but it is starting to kind of – there's a group of them now. I'm not super worried about it. I don't know about you. But I think there's another side of this, which is you want Kevin Winston to play fast and violent. You want the defense to be like that, but you got to have a leash on him at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the way Winston plays needs to be on display in practice. They don't need that tone set. They don't need the risks are too much for that. And God forbid this is something for Tate, but you can't have that price on a lesson for Winston. It's as simple as that for me. So hopefully Tate's fine. You really like to see him out there Friday. If he needs it, they're off Tuesday, Thursday. If he needs Wednesday off in the middle of it, great.
Sure.
I'd like to get him out there on Friday.
So nothing super concerning to you with the list of names on the offense specifically?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm a wait and see guy on all of this stuff. Everybody panics on everything immediately. A couple of them have now been big, but most of them have been small.
Yeah.
Until I know it's big, I wait.
Anything else from practice, the last 2 practices that you want to point out? Joey Sly, according to Wyatt, says has made 16 in a row since I thought he missed
practice
today.
kicks are fine. I had a tough angle on the kicks today. I would have called a couple of them no good, but they're refs under the polls, so they were signaling good. Game performance was tremendous. Not only was he hitting those 50-plus field goals, they were right down the pipe. So he recovered from that bad scrimmage. Since the scrimmage, he's been terrific. So I think his job is completely solidified. They've got nice files on other guys, and until he starts missing again, no problems there whatsoever. I said I watched Carmona very closely. He's obviously got a very difficult practice matchup almost all the time against Jeffrey Simmons. And I asked him how he'd grade his performance today in practice. He said, not good. So I like the candor, but he honestly feels like he hasn't really done anything of note. And seems somewhat surprised that he's at the front of the list, which I think reinforces my opinion that part of it is that Volson, who really did not look good playing behind him in San Francisco, and Slater, who now is seeing some more additional time at center, which is to bolster depth, have not played well. And so Carmona's the best of the group, and they're investing now in him. They did run the ball very well to the right side. One of it was that Tajay Spears play that bounced outside, But he's the best of the lot right now. People said good things about him. Saleh said, Seattle's a totally different kind of bodies and system and everything, and so we'll see how he looks against this different. Jermaine Johnson said, hey, there's no downside to him going against Simmons every day. And, my art with this picture is Carmona, with this story is Carmona with Simmons talking, coming off the field. And they spent a good 10 minutes plus. And Skoronski was in on that conversation too. And that's what you like to see. Yeah. Guy may have gotten beaten up. Yeah, he won some plays. He stood his ground in some plays. But how great is that he gets that for an hour and a half, and then afterwards has a conversation with Simmons about it where Skoronski is interjecting some stuff too. It's a pretty good classroom setting for a kid from Arkansas. And Blake Benningfield thought that Carmona showed pretty well in that game. He felt pretty good about him. He felt better about him than he did about Schlottman.
Well, and I think first of all, I think they ran the ball pretty well on in the game when the first team was out there. I thought they ran the ball pretty well today, and I think getting back to that as your core ethos is always going to be the most helpful thing you can do for Cam Ward. I do think it sort of also speaks to the secondary issue. Is it Cam Ward being great and the offense being great and the receivers being great the last 2 days, or is it the fact that they're going up against the secondary? I think that's sort of the same thing with Carmona. Is the rest of the position group weaker than we expected? Maybe. But has he also been better than expected? Probably. So I think it's always kind of a little bit of both. Yeah,
and on that secondary, and I'll credit Buck Rising here. He's been tweeting and talking about morale, and he feels like their morale is down and that their play isn't going to pick up until their morale picks up. And I buy into that a little bit. The great Austin Stanley coming out of the podcast room. Well done. Reservations. We got to start making reservations. He's going back in. He's just probably taking a bathroom break and whatever he's got. But that secondary was bad in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And, I don't think it can be this bad. I really don't. But Stribling, the second-round pick, he came out with some enthusiasm about him. and with the third-string quarterback, for him to get 7 catches against the Titans' first-team defense is just too much.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do. There's a couple of questions here. I want to take your questions, and then we'll kind of get to our sort of our midterm, like, evaluation of what we've seen so far writ large across training camp. Do you see, LCT says, do you see them bringing in a vet on the offensive line in the near future? I think we had talked about this going into camp, that there was a chance, but unlikely on offensive line. I do think that they feel comfortable with who they've got. Now, if they get one injury somewhere, though, you could expect to see them do something there.
The offensive line played pretty well in San Francisco.
Right.
Of all of their concerns, that they didn't come out of the game with the big one there. So, no, I do not see that.
Is it fair to compare Cam Ward to how guys like Mendoza, Aller, and Ty Simpson are performing? I'll admit I don't. I thought Kirk Cousins got all the headlines out of Raiders camp to start the year. I have not paid attention to Ty Simpson. He is, I assume,
Ty
backing
Simpson
up.
got a lot of hype out of his game, and he played well. Is it fair to compare him? Yes.
But it's backups,
training
though, right?
camp to training camp doesn't matter. I don't think that Stafford played, so Simpson may have started. But like their training camp situation and the Titans training camp situation are completely opposite. They're Super Bowl favorites,
right?
So they're working on something completely different than the Titans are working on. So it's not apples to apples.
Yeah. Cam bouncing back in practice is meaningless at this point. I don't think it's meaningless. But it doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't tell you anything huge, but if he had come out and kept doing exactly what he did in San Francisco and was sped up, that would have told you something. So you can't say it doesn't tell you something that he didn't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree with that. Is it too early to ask from Buston? Is it too early to ask who's a good candidate for trade to get as a reliable cornerback? I think I don't know who's available out there.
I mean, I don't think you're thinking about trading, but they're not making a player-for-player trade before cuts.
No.
I mean, if you're trading for cornerback help, you're trading picks. They're not trading for cornerback help. They just spent millions and millions on Flott and Taylor. They need Flott and Taylor to perform.
Yeah.
And there's a Joshua Williams question in here. Joshua Williams being in a yellow jersey hasn't stopped anything about him playing defense. It stops people from hitting him. He's hitting, and he's done pretty well. He had a play today that was bad, ill-advised throw to Restrepo, I think, from Levis. And you would have thought that the way Levis threw it, that Restrepo was the 6'3" guy, and 2 corners misjudged it while Restrepo had no chance at it. Josh Williams should have picked it and didn't. I think Josh Williams is doing fine.
Yeah. I think Micah Robinson has been okay too. Like he's there. I think the depth is a question. I think it's a big unknown in the secondary, but I think most of the guys are competing hard, and I think they've got some talent. So I don't know who's going to be your true outside backup. Micah Robinson's been the guy that
Najee Johnson blew it. I mean, I think Najee Johnson was the 4th outside corner as the roster stands. And he got himself suspended for 6 games. Now, I know people are sympathetic because he put out the fertility drug story. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You've got to know, and teams are educating everybody. No matter what you're taking, you got to take it to the training staff and make sure that it's all right. Now, if it's not all right, but you're trying to start a family, then the league will work with you to some degree to get you on a different fertility drug that isn't going to be a problem, or maybe to get you an exemption.
Yeah.
But he puts out this sob story, and everybody, it seems like fans are like, oh, this is so tough. It's the rule, and everybody knows it, and you're responsible for what goes in your body. This is totally his fault.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You could, have a conversation, right? I suppose. Running back room feels full currently. Might we lose a quality guy there? Right now, half of them are injured. So
who's a quality guy? Is Chestnut a quality guy? He's probably getting cut.
Carter.
Carter is a nice guy to have on your practice squad, who I think could be a first and second down back if you're minus Pollard or Spears, because I think Kalel Mullings, to me, is a limited guy who's not going to be a first and second down back, but is going to probably be on your roster. So the backs are Pollard, Spears, Mullings, and Singleton.
Yeah, and Mullings is a solid special teamer. Yes, Tyler, that is for sure. Okay, let's move on to sort of our midterm thing here. Sinkers Beverages. Make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages. They are an award-winning local business that you should support. You go in there; they've got a really great top selection right now. The industry itself has kind of calmed down after a craze during the pandemic, and you can go in there and get really good stuff. You got Blanton's, you've got Michter's, you've got all kinds of good stuff on that top shelf. I think there's some Willet over there. They've got some Colonel Taylor that are available. They've got good stuff available if you're a bourbon fan like me. They also have a really great collection of totally legal and very much healthier than alcohol THC beverages and gummies, all of which are totally legal and actually medicinally much better for your body than most alcohol. Great wine selection. Wine also in moderation, very, very good for you, as well as beer as well. But they've got the good stuff. Huge tequila selection as well. So just check out Sinkers Beverages, award-winning liquor store, serving the community for over 40 years. Great local business. Search Uber Eats and have the booze delivered directly to your house. Okay, I've got about
take this busted diamond question before we get on to the thing. He says, I know I'm being extreme, but I feel like we won't see real progress from Cam going against this secondary in practice with them being so awful. You saw one game and maybe 20 snaps of the secondary being awful. Therefore, the secondary is awful in practice every day. Have we been reporting that the secondary is awful in practice every day?
I mean, they
I don't
have
see
not.
Flott and Taylor being awful in practice every single day.
I will say I think they had been better than I expected going into the practice. And the last two practices since they were, I don't want to say exposed or didn't play well, the last two practices, they have not broken up a lot of passes.
I think they're in a rut now.
Right.
But I don't think this has been a terrible secondary throughout training. Many people have reported that. Yes. I don't think that first off, it's generally, I just don't agree with that. I think Flott and Taylor have been fine, not great, but up until the trip to San Francisco, they had been fine. So the idea that Cam isn't getting real defense played against him, plus the pass rush is good. So Cam is getting real NFL tests at practice. The last week, the secondary hasn't been good. That's not some huge, like, oh my God, Cam can't develop because of what he's facing in practice. That's nonsense.
All right. Make sure you check out paulkuharsky.com. Make sure you check out Sinkers. Check out all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network. We already have a Club and Country episode up recapping the win over Miami and Messi. Myself, Cavendish, Ben Wright. Check that out. We got SEC Football Live, Gold Standard, all the other shows across the network covering things in Middle Tennessee and in Nashville. This is where I want to start our superlative. This is sort of like a midterm, middle of training camp kind of benchmark setting here. I've got a bunch of different categories I'm going to ask you about. I've got answers. You've got answers. We'll kind of talk through each one of these. But I think this is actually an interesting way. This was not on the list of things we were going to talk about, but I think it's a good way to start the conversation, which is what is our biggest concern right now to this point about this team going into practice. And I'm going to take Cam Ward off of it because the quarterback gets outsized influence on both the outcome of games, but also our coverage and our conversations. And so if he is bad or not as good or hasn't made progress, that is clearly the biggest concern. And we're just not going to know that until the game starts. So outside of that, what position group, what part of the team are you most concerned about in terms of what you've seen so far through, 4 weeks now?
Well, I'd say probably my first answer would be depth, offensive line depth, defensive back depth. I don't like tight end. I'm not in love with the starting tight ends, but tight end depth after Helm and Bellinger, there's nothing there that's going to threaten anybody or anything. So that would be my main thing. What was the question? Biggest concern?
Just biggest concern, yeah. I mean, it wasn't secondary until
it wasn't secondary, and I'm not going to sell out the secondary. Yeah, I need to see him do it again.
And I still think, like, if you project out Harris's growth and trajectory, Winston, Hooker. If Hooker is so, here's the thing: if Flott and Taylor are in the right place, like they were against the Niners, but cannot make plays, if Hooker continues a gradual kind of slow slide, and Winston can't, Winston is too aggressive, makes too many sort of overly reactive plays. Like, you could easily see the secondary being the biggest concern on the team because it would have been offensive line, but I think the offensive line, I think fans should be excited that the thing that has been one of the more consistent parts of the team to this point has been the offensive line. However, I will say, I feel like we were saying the same thing like each of the last like 3 training camps. Like 3-4 weeks in, we're like, man, I think the offensive line actually is better. And then it's not.
Well, it's certainly not better depth-wise. You need Brandon Crenshaw Dixon to prove that he could be a swing tackle. And in the secondary, like who's the reserve nickel? I mean, Tony Adams is the big nickel. But if you need somebody other than Marcus Harris, who's unproven to play nickel right now, it's Keedrain Callaghan. I'm not sold on Keedrain Callaghan.
I think depth is probably my biggest concern as well. I think that's the right question or the right point to make. All right, let's go through some of these categories here. Just in general, no particular order. Most improved player, most improved players that you have seen throughout the course of this training camp, guys that have really surprised you in a good, positive way.
I mean, I'm buying Latham. I think Latham is I really like what he said the 2 times that we've heard from him, second time being today. I think he's got it together, and I think he's played well. I think Restrepo is better. He's the second best slot guy on the team, but I don't think you need 2 guys who play exclusively slot. And I wouldn't want Wandale outside of the slot except once in a while, maybe in a quirky thing. And I certainly don't want 2 of them. So I don't think Restrepo should be on the team. I think he should be on the practice squad ready to go. I don't know that there's too much risk of losing him, but I think he's gotten a lot better as well.
I started writing down names, and it just was all names from like last year's draft class. It's Alec Manor, I think, is significantly better.
Yeah, he's better.
I think Gunnar Helm is significantly better. I think Kevin Winston is obviously better because of the health issue. I'm not going to count Cedric Gray or James Williams. They're obviously not second-year players, but neither of them really contributed at all in their first seasons. And so it really kind of is their second full season. But I think James Williams has been maybe the most improved player on the entire roster.
I'm not as sure about Cedric Gray as you are. I think there could be times where Cedric Gray is not on the field in passing downs.
Well, he against San Francisco, there were some moments, we talked about it on Friday, there were some moments where double moves and play action pass fakes were effective against him. But I a lot of players. I think Tajay Spears has been one of the more improved players in training camp. I know you and I kind of have differing opinions on him long term, but
he looks better at what he's good at. But I still don't want to see him run between the tackles.
This is good news on this next question, and I wanted to ask, has there been a major disappointment, a player or a position group that has been a major disappointment to date? And it's really actually quite hard to find a singular player or position group or a couple of names that you would write down and you would say that has been a really big disappointment so far through 4 weeks of camp. None of these position groups may be good NFL position groups. We don't know about how good they actually are. If the first answer I came up with was Will Levis as the most disappointing kind of camp storyline, I think that's a really positive sign for the entire team and the organization writ large. Is cornerbacks I don't know if we could have said that until this time last week. Is Femi Oladejo a huge disappointment? I don't think he's been a big disappointment at all. Anthony Hill's not playing the role I expected him to play, so if that's slightly disappointing, maybe. But you have to you got to shoehorn guys into this answer, which I think is a good thing for the team.
Well, it depends a little bit on your expectations. Volson's been a huge disappointment.
That's true.
And that's a guy that should be, at least average NFL starting caliber guard, I think. Now, he's out last year, but before that, he was average guard. Slater's been a disappointment. He should be ahead of Carmona, having been in the league for a year, drafted at roughly the same level. Flott, I think you have to call a disappointment to come out and put out that performance in his first time. And I'm going to say Najee Johnson, who, is a nobody, but I think was heading towards a spot on this roster, getting suspended for doing something stupid. That's a big disappointment.
I think if you were to combine sort of like disappointment with trajectory with depth, I do think the cornerback room is the one I might circle, because I think you could make the case that Flott and Taylor have been slightly disappointing, at least just in the last week after a good start to camp. I think depth behind them is still kind of a question. We're not really sure exactly.
Outside of Josh Williams, we don't know any of those guys.
And Marcus Harris, while I think is a nice player who's going to continue to get better, he may not be on the field for every single role, and which is interesting considering how he seems like he's on the field all the time. And again, depth behind him is a question. So I think if you were going to say, like, what's based on the investment in the offseason, which position group has been the most quote unquote disappointing, even though it started well, I would probably say the cornerback room, I think. And
I'll say this though, like the cornerbacks had a miserable game in San Francisco. Where was the pass rush in San Francisco?
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, we're giving a free pass to JFM didn't play, right? But Jermaine Johnson and Jeff, who's always good, but he didn't get in the backfield much. And Elliott and Solomon Thomas and all of those guys who collectively we say, that's a really good group. Well, that really good group didn't affect things for the secondary or for anybody. And none of us came out of that game saying, boy, the front was lousy.
Yeah.
We just kind of granted, like, they didn't get off to a good start.
Ed Henry with a good question here. Is the Latham-Simmons relationship healthy? Seems like both players have matured, but not sure if it's just lip service. They certainly talked a lot about it today, right?
Here's what Latham said, if you boil it down. And if you re-listen to it, like, it sounded good in the moment, but it didn't articulate it great. But here's the gist of what I got. Like, they have sat down and kind of agreed they don't operate necessarily the same way. They both have juice, but they don't use the juice the same way. And they've kind of agreed to disagree and respect the way the other guy does it and not put strain on it.
That feels like an incredibly advanced, psychologically mature way to approach a teammate.
Yes, I think it is. I think it is. And to be honest with you.
For 20-year-olds.
And to be honest with you, I'm going to say this. I think Latham, I think Jeff has matured in a lot of ways. Jeff has come a long, long way. And this comes from somebody that's had his own difficulties with Jeff. I'm very candid about that. But I think Jeff has just kind of learned it by force, kind of, because he had to learn it. And do you agree with that? Like, Jeff didn't go and do reading about it. I don't get the feeling. JC worked on his emotional cue this offseason. I think they've come at it two very different ways. Jeff learned it like School of Hard Knocks, and JC learned it and I don't know this for a fact, but JC learned it with a mental coach and stuff like that. Now, maybe Simmons has done that kind of stuff, but he certainly hasn't publicized it. And JC's been very candid about it. So I think they've come at it in very different ways to reach a similar place.
I think the way you come at it, though, is also catered to who you are and how you work and how you function. I mean, like my wife and I come to processing information and emotion very differently. But if we get to the same place, it's okay. I think maybe maturing at a later age is what we could talk about with Simmons to some degree. And maybe that's just how he's wired, and that's okay too. Like I think how you get there is not, as long as it's good for you. I just think it's a very modern way for two teammates to look at how they're wired and their communication style, their leadership style, their intensity style, whatever it might be. I just think that's a very psychologically advanced way to communicate with a teammate in 2026. That is not the way people were talking about football in 1996, or 2006, or whatever. So.
And there are probably a lot of people. The audience for this show probably likes the conversation. The audience for a lot of shows won't. But the point is, those two guys need to be part of the team in a more joined way. And I think they are now, based on what JC said today.
Biggest unknown, the thing you feel you know the least about with this team right now.
I wrote down Callaghan, who's the backup corner at nickel. I think the depth at that spot worries me. Biggest unknown.
You want me to give you mine?
Yeah, I just think beyond the Jets game, how are they going to compete? I expect them to win the Jets game. Beyond that, how are they going to compete?
I like what I've seen from the offensive line, but I wrote down left and right tackle. I think I agree with you that I like what I'm seeing out of Latham. Dan Moore has largely been the player we talk the least about, who is the most important.
Which is great.
Which is great. I just don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they're going to be. I don't know what they're capable of. I think they've got ability. I like this scheme and Brian Daboll and the coaching staff to put everybody in a better situation than they were last year. I just think if you tell me that I feel like I know what Skoronski is. I feel like I know that Carmona is going to be a guy that we look at and say, man, he's ahead of schedule, really good job, but is still clearly a rookie 6th-round pick. Like, I just think that's going to happen a lot in the NFL. It happens to everybody. I think we kind of now know what Schlotman is. I think he has proven quickly to be the consistent guy. He may not be elite, but he kind of is what he is. I don't think we know yet what the left and right tackle positions will be throughout the course of the entire season.
I think it's fair. I'm leaning positive on Latham. I disagree. I mean, I'm leaning positive on Latham. No, we don't know. I know exactly what Dan Moore's going to be. Going to be average. Going to be average. He's going to need a tight end. Average, and some weeks he's going to be below average, and we're going to be swearing at him and wondering how he could be so bad. Other weeks we won't talk about him.
Okay.
And those mostly will be the weeks against the teams with the weakest pass rushers.
Honestly, the question most improved could be Cam Ward. Biggest disappointment, Cam Ward. Biggest unknown, Cam Ward.
Yeah,
he could be the answer to all of them. How about this? You wrote a great story about how they're practicing with the drills and what they're focused on. Is that your favorite new camp strategy that you're seeing? We certainly, there's new media rules. There's all kinds of new structure when a new coaching staff comes in. Is there a particular strategy that you like the most about what this new coaching staff is doing and how they're unfolding training camp?
Well, look, I think it all makes sense, right? And there was stuff during Callahan that didn't necessarily make sense. I think most of Vrabel's stuff made sense. I mean, he could tell you why. You might not agree with some of it that involved us. But most of the football stuff made sense. This football stuff makes sense. Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, isn't using sleds, mostly because of the timing. Though you said, I have one sled. I got one guy on one sled. I got 15 guys watching. Well, you could have two sleds and cut that in half. But also he likes and Saleh likes human things that imitate football more. The defensive sleds seem to imitate football more for the defensive linemen and for the get-off stuff and for the leverage and stay low stuff. That's more footballish than the offensive stuff. They've gotten rid of 9-on-7, which is an inside run drill, in favor of more 11-on-11 football. They've minimized 7-on-7, which is a passing drill with no linemen, in favor of, wait for it, more 11-on-11 football. They are doing more football things that are more like football and fewer things that are less like football. I mean, you can't talk me out of that. That makes
no, I know. Sense. I think about playing high school football in the 90s, and I'm just going like maybe there is some football in an Oklahoma drill, right? Like a running back and a linebacker trying to go.
Well, it's a toughness thing.
And there's like a camaraderie and everything. It just feels like such caveman nonsense.
It's also more nuts and bolts at a
high school,
this mentality in a kid.
Yeah, that's true.
That stuff's all instilled by now. But look, I asked a question based on not seeing the offensive line with that stuff, and it turned into something I thought much bigger and much more interesting. And I'm interested in a story, too, about not something new showing up, but something old disappearing.
Okay. All right. Top position battle. Right guard is
only one. I mean, outside of these depth battles on the back end, I'm becoming convinced, Braden, and I might be wrong here, and some of it's going to be bones fossil, but this is a 5-receiver team. What do you need a 6th receiver on this team for exactly? The drop-off between Io Manor and the next guy, who probably now is Restrepo, Bryce Oliver made a really nice catch today. It's
No
the first thing he's done in a while.
KJ Osborne had
KJ
a
Osborne
phenomenal
is a good
catch
player.
today. Yeah.
He's a good player.
I think he's number 6.
All right.
But,
well, whoever's 6, the drop-off from Io Manor or Chim, quite frankly, Io Manor's probably ahead of Chim based on his performance.
I would agree.
Chim's stature is based on his return game. The drop-off from Chim DK to that next guy, we just named 3 of them, pretty substantial. So that guy's got to be a huge special teamer. I don't, and a huge special teamer, not as a returner. Restrepo's not a huge special teamer. Oliver is.
Yeah.
And Osborne can be, but one of his talents is as a return man, and they don't need him. So I won't be surprised if they keep 5 and put 3 on the practice squad and have them handy. As soon as a guy turns an ankle, you got him up.
Okay.
But
I mean, I think you'd have to have a very good player at another position that you feel really important to have. I do think if you're asking me who's the best wide receiver of that group of players, I think it's KJ Osborne overall. If you're asking me who's the best special teamer, I think it's Bryce Oliver. And you're asking me who does the one thing the best, it might be Restrepo.
I mean, you're dead on all 3 of those. Which one do you need the most? I think you need that slot guy the least.
Yeah, I think
even though he's the best at the thing. I think you need Oliver probably the most, but how good as a gunner are some of these other guys that we're talking about, like Callaghan or, depth guys, that Mousy or others at different positions. So that'll be an interesting shakeout. I don't think it's going to be that much about playing receiver.
That's right. If it was, then I think it's Osborne all the way, but I agree. That's an interesting thought. I hadn't really considered 5 receivers, but you do need depth cornerbacks. You do need depth pieces in secondary. Do you have a particular player as a breakout star that you think really could become? Cedric Gray was kind of that guy last year. I'm going to, Kevin Winston is my guy on all of this. I don't know if we can count rookies and all of that. I wouldn't count like a Carnell Tate or a Keldrick Falk, but is there a guy that you just think is solidifying himself and becoming a legitimate household name for Titans fans?
I don't know if it's too big, but I'm going to stay on the Latham train. What if J.C. Latham turns into what J.C. Latham was supposed to be?
I think that's it. You're putting more and more eggs in the same basket. So I don't know if I'm on board with that yet, but I think the talent is just extraordinary, and I really do appreciate his mental approach. But if he is, I need to see it on. And here's the other thing. I think he was better. If you listen to James Foster and I on the hot read, James is a big believer that J.C. Latham was a better player last year than the conversation makes him out to be.
Does he think it dropped off late?
There was a couple of what he thinks is that there were some high-profile moments that get replayed and clipped, and they spread wide and far on the internet, and that is not representative of his entire sample size.
Reputational rather than representative.
Yeah.
People are saying Femi. I think Femi looks to me like a guy's going to be a good rundown defender. I need to see him in the backfield before I say Femi.
And his one TFL in the game was when he was unblocked. So a good play, but let's not go crazy there. Kind of the opposite of J.C. Latham, right? A clippable play that spreads far and wide, but doesn't necessarily indicate down in and down out. All right, I put this category in just because I wanted to talk about Alec Iomanor. The feistiest, angriest player at training camp so far has been Alec Iomanor, and I think it was very much like I'm a second-year player. I'm earning my roster spot. I was productive, but I've moved down the depth chart. This team drafted Carnell Tate. I'm a pretty decent player. He has gotten into it with like every layer of cornerback on this team. Starters, backups, every practice it feels like the guy. He was in it. He got a little scuffle today in terms of they had to be broken up. He is in the middle of mixing it up all the time, but I think for the right reasons. Does that make sense? Like it's not because he's losing his cool or he's not mature. It's because I think he is intentionally bringing a level of intensity that the rest of the team needs.
I think he heads that category. Another guy I'd mention there, maybe Solomon Thomas. He's like a pro. Like he's been around and he's got a little of that
defensive line juice
in an intellectual way.
Yeah, no, I agree with
that.
How about that? Impact new face. This is a free agent to trade or a draft pick. I have a name that I might rank ahead of everybody else that I don't think anyone would guess.
Well, my favorite new player kind of cross-pollinates with that. And I just talked about Solomon Thomas, but I think he's an impact new face. I think for a depth guy who's not on the field initially or out of the gate, to have Solomon Thomas behind Simmons and JFM or behind Simmons and Elliott, I like the feel of Solomon Thomas. I need
I like him a
to be
lot.
wrong.
No, I like him as a floor raising kind of foundational stabilizer. So I
think he's a step up from Sebastian
Yeah.
Joseph Day in that kind of role.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, this was a guy who was a top 10 pick back in the day. So I think Carnell Tate's going to have the most high profile impact just because he plays receiver. And even if he just catches 45 passes, which would be disappointing, but like that's a bigger impact technically on a game in, game out kind of stat box element there. Carmona starting, I think, is a great sign, as we talked about. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is going to catch potentially 100 passes. John Franklin Myers is an excellent impact guy. I think the guy who could have the biggest impact of every single new face, trade, free agent, or draft pick is Jermaine Johnson. I think Jermaine Johnson could lead this team in sacks and could be their best edge player throughout the course of the entire season. Am I crazy for that?
No. I mean, I wouldn't bet on it. I bet your money.
I didn't say he's going to get double digits. He might get 8.5 and lead the team in sacks. But I just think Jermaine Johnson on a down in, down out basis is going to do his job very, very well. And I just think he's going to have a bigger impact than, fantasy stats indicate, when you look at a rookie receiver. So that's all. Okay. Favorite new player to cover? Do you have one? Is that Thomas?
Jacob Martin.
Yeah.
Jacob Martin's a great talker. I think he's a great guy. It's weird how, I think every team that's had him has liked him, but then, moved on to an alternative. So he's been with maybe eight teams, 7 or 8 teams. But I talked to him early. I thought he's really super smart. Taught me a lot about the new defensive front and how things work. I think he's kind of a glue guy. He's got a handle on this defense because he played for Saleh in New York. And I hope the knee isn't a longer-term thing for him and that and that he has a chance to be of influence because he's a guy that can teach Titans fans through the media a lot about what's going on.
Yep.
Is going to be candid about the state of things.
It may not be as impactful this year, but I think covering Anthony Hill is going to be really fun. I just think he's a good talker. He's a smart kid. You play a position where you kind of see the whole field and have to comment on the whole field and know everybody's role all the time. So I think Anthony Hill, as his role grows, I think is going to become a more and more interesting person to talk to and get to know. And I think he's one that I'm very interested in as well.
If you go to Awaken here, the Nick Singleton hype has in 1 week has gotten out of control to me. 3 guys have gotten hurt. Nick Singleton's gotten some reps. He's looked okay. Where is he getting his touches?
I think
he's not. Pollard and Spears are getting all the running back touches. He might get a series here and there. Nick Singleton is a guy to talk about in 2027.
Yes, I do agree with that. I think he is better than his draft slot, but that's hard because running backs are just worth that now. And I think he is the 5-star recruit that was very good for Penn State, and I think he is that talented. But I think he's clearly number 3. Now, I think he's no lower than 3, but he's no higher than 3. I think and he does do a lot of things. I think he hits the hole hard as well as more explosion than Pollard or Spears between the tackles. And he's a really good catcher of the football. But right now, Spears has been they're going to throw the football to Spears a lot this year.
And if Pollard and Spears are healthy, there's no way Singleton gets any kind of significant stuff. They're not getting demoted.
That's right.
They might get hurt, especially in Spears' case, because that's what Spears does.
That's right.
And Pollard's getting old. He might get hurt. But if they're both healthy, there's no way Singleton's vaulting somebody.
Okay, so this
Based
is
on what? Based on practice?
Here's an interesting question. We'll end on this. Sinkers Beverages, paulkarski.com, all the other great shows from 440. Are we not getting true evaluative performances on these players in the game because of the predictable play calling in preseason? It's only been one game.
Predictable play, and Cam speeds it up and throws it off target. How did the predictable play call hurt Cam executing the play? Cam throws 100-mile-an-hour fastball to Wan'Dale Robinson on a 7-yard play. How did a predictable play call force him screw up his thing? You can execute predictable play calls well. That's my answer to
that. I think every play is evaluated evenly if you are playing in a preseason game against another team. And so I don't care if it's predictable or not. I think so I'm kind of agreeing with you. Like, go out and run your play no matter what it is. If it's complex, if it's simple, a rep against another team is critically important every time you do it. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay. All right. We're going to have kind of a weird schedule this week. We'll have practice on Wednesday, and then the most important practice, of course, will be Friday. So Suss and I will probably be on in the afternoon on Friday afternoon, kind of heading into your happy hour on Friday. We may have something for you on Thursday, but we'll see. But definitely Friday afternoon after joint practice with me and Nick Suss. So make sure you check out Tennessee and paulkarski.com.
I'll probably do my pod opposite them. So if they do it Friday, I'll probably do it Saturday.
There you go. There you go. All right, everybody. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out, of course. And we'll talk to you next time. Everybody, have a good one.
Thanks.